play a little Russian roulette.
You are literally playing Russian roulette with your health if you don't get your blood work done before a cycle. Before starting any cycle, we have to find a base profile of blood work. If you don't know what your starting levels are, how do you know where to return to? Who knows what your estrogen or your LH is at baseline? And how significantly are your biomarkers going to be hit when you introduce androgens? And if problems do come along, if you don't get your blood work checked, how are you going to know what to even respond to or what to take because you don't know what to change? Once you know this and you have the facts, you just make the changes accordingly. With using our blood values, we can clearly see what to take, what not to take, how much of it in the ratios, and if something does go wrong, why it went wrong. Once you have experience, you're going to see what is moving around relative to what compounds, and it makes it very, very easy to avoid all those common side effects. First off, we need to get our testosterone checked, don't we? Some people come to me and they've not even checked their test levels. This is crucial for understanding the impact of testosterone on the overall hormone balance. Very simplistically, test is here. It can 5-alpha reduce into DHT, or it can aromatize into estradiol. That's why I do say I like to have test as a base and then have primobolan, that DHT, which manages the estrogen burden. Look into your serum insulin, glucose levels, hemoglobin A1C. If these are flagged, it's time for a mini diet because you have become resistant to carbs. Most experts brush over this all the time. Burning out beta cells in your pancreas and becoming insulin resistant is not the way forward. Gear can have a significant impact on your kidneys. Kidneys rarely recover, so we need to find the right test. A cystatin C is a good option. That's going to assess your filtration rate far more accurate than creatinine. Guys taking these tests are going to train frequently, have more muscle mass, might use an antioxidant, it's like PQQ for brain function. All this can disproportionately raise those creatinine levels in the blood versus the average person. So a kidney support would be needed from a cardiovascular standpoint. I personally like to use an ARB to modulate blood pressure. It's going to fend off angiotensin II receptor 1 agonism, and that can otherwise lead to heart enlargement. The interesting thing is, when you put rodents on a lot of anabolics, it messes their hearts up big time. But then throwing an ARB into the picture, it attenuates so much of the damage. This is very promising, even for humans. They have high safety profiles and are backed by many years of clinical trials. Don't blindly add it in because you might have hyperkalemia. Super rare. That's when your blood has too much potassium in it. Always be proactive with a preventative medicine approach to any of this stuff. High sensitivity reactive protein test is beneficial for assessing inflammation in the body. If you smoke weed or do that vaping rubbish, you've got total high cholesterol, your trigs are off, triglycerides, your LDL's off as well, that's going to have a massive impact on your overall well-being. Here we are monitoring cholesterol levels for our cardiovascular health. Do we just run in and use PCSK9 inhibitors, natural statins, ezetimibe to manually drop our LDL? Not necessarily. Inhibiting steroidogenesis by nuking the parent thing that creates an entire cascade of neural steroids downstream through the production of DHT, testosterone, estradiol, etc. All that stuff that is very, very important is going to be heavily dependent on exogenous cholesterol. It ain't a case of just running in and gunning everything down. But anyway, should this be the priority for someone who is already in an inflammatory state? They've got a sympathetic drive that's massive from all that androgenic signaling. If I wanted to intervene and use something reasonable, ezetimibe 10 milligrams. That can drop LDL 20%, triglycerides 8 to 10%, and HDL an increase in 5%. If you were to also stack on top a natural statin like red yeast rice, lower well-tolerated dosages of both are better than stacking high dosages of both. The two of them work through different mechanisms. The statin is going to inhibit cholesterol synthesis in the liver, while ezetimibe inhibits the uptake in the intestines. Other things you could do citrus bergamot, that's got some good data behind it, krill oil, and adequate cardio. Prolactin, if this gets high, libido gets low. Common for guys to get prolactin gyno symptoms like ED and think it's estrogen related. This is how you go round in circles. So it's always wise to check your prolactin. Now let's be mindful of our liver health. Even if you're not doing 17 alpha alkylated oral agents, injectable steroids still are going to have an impact on your liver. Complete blood count. This is going to provide an essential snapshot of our various blood components. Depending on what you're taking, problems can manifest in 1 to 3 months. Also note, selective estrogen receptor modulators like Novadex seem to increase clotting risk. It's key to keep estrogen in range, not too low because that's no sex drive, crappy feeling all the time, and dry joints. You let it get too high, you can get gyno, sluggish energy, moon face, high blood pressure, acne. Everything has a trade-off when you inhibit one process manually, like lowering your estradiol, because you're going to be inhibiting other synthesis of other hormones in the body responsible for protecting your heart and your brain. Plus, liver enzymes are going to be burdened if you're adding in an AI. That's why we should check our blood values first before jumping on any compounds. You might start off the cycle with high estrogen versus someone else who has lower estrogen. It's going to be a massive difference between the two people in terms of side effects at the end of the month. It really is imperative we track this monthly. If you're with a TRT clinic that tracks and looks at your estrogen every 3 months, 6 months, that's a massive red flag. Cortisol is your stress response hormone. It kind of acts like a dashboard indicator, showing you how well your overall system can handle stress. Anabolics are similar to a turbo boost. Great. However, it's not so great when you realize that impact can massively stress out the engine. You want a crystal clear picture of your metabolism? Well, this is the test to get. You optimize this, you're going to accelerate the delivery of the supplements that you take. FH and LSH, that's if you want to return to your natural status, so you've got a baseline of what you were producing naturally before the cycle. And even just with that list there, it's not very large. If you wanted to go further, there's about 10 more that you can do. We should always know our baseline blood pressure too before starting anything. We've got to also examine our SHBG. Not going to mention it here because I've done an entire video on that, which will be coming up in a few minutes after this one. So if your results come through and you're unhealthy, the worst thing to do is just sit there and look at yourself being unhealthy. The idea is to act now, find the root, and then make those appropriate smart changes through an educated assessment so your health doesn't suffer in the short and the long term. So anyways, if you need help and guidance to make sure you don't run into any of these problems on your path to leveling up, you can reach out. There's a link below this video, and if you hit that link, mate, I'm going to get back to you as quick as I can. In the next video, I'm going to cover SHBG. Very important we get that biomarker checked too. Mentioned it in this video. The next one, you're going to have it in full detail. See you in 2 moments, brother. I'm out.